Hello, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to a very special session of Bangladesh Information Technology Network of North America, or BITNA, BITNA. We know BITNA is one of the largest communities of IT professionals and researchers in North America. Currently, we have 3,900 members in our social media group. And our goal is to utilize the power of network and knowledge to help our Bangladeshi community grow and flourish in the IT field. By the way, today's session is very special. Our guest is Dr. Mohammad Ataul Karim. Dr. Karim is currently professor of electrical and computer engineering at the University of Massachusetts Dartmouth. He is a world expert of electro-optical systems, optical computing, and pattern recognition. In fact, he is one of the top 50 researchers in the world based on contribution in the applied optics in its 50-year history. Previously, he served as provost, uh, executive vice chancellor, and chief operating officer of the University of Massachusetts Dartmouth, and was vice president of research of Old Dominion University. Dr. Karim is author and editor of 19 text and reference books, over 365 research papers. Some of the sponsors of his research include National Science Foundation, U.S. Air Force, Naval Research Laboratory, U.S. Army, NASA, U.S. Department of Education's Ohio Aerospace Institute, and U.S. Department of Defense. So, he's such an accomplished person. I can go on rest of the day talking about his contribution. But without a further ado, let's welcome Dr. Karim. And I am the host, Ibrahim Siraj. I am the Associate Professor of Financial Accounting at Long Island University Post. So let's welcome Dr. Karim. He will talk about the first scientist on our history. And also we have some interactive question and answer session at the end of his talk. You can ask questions. I would request everyone to post their questions as early as possible. Dr. Karim, welcome to the program.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you.
Walaikum salam, Dr. Karim. It is very nice of you to make some time for us. Dr. Karim, before going into the presentations, we know you made a very successful journey in scientific research. And would you like to spend some time, some moments to talk about some of the most satisfying or breakthrough moments or experience that in your journey that would be very inspiring for all of us?
Thank you for this, and thanks to Bitna for organizing this today's talk. Breakthrough moment for everybody is somewhat different. For me, the breakthroughs are the moments I feel like that I'm learning something. And this is typically from reading books. And when I say reading books, I read at the speed of about 10, 15 books a month on wide different topics. So books is one. And sometimes I just sit tight. I say, my goodness, I never realized this. That's one. Second thing is what I learned from my own students. The students may not know this, but they actually have been teaching me for all these years. And that's one of the reasons I never chose to work for anything but the universities, because I realized that I'm going to be right next to the brightest people. This semester, the brightest people I have are three sophomores. Three sophomores are working on three different research topics. And all these three students are going to have published work before they become juniors in the university. So it cannot be more inspiring than that. Finally are my mentors, and there are a lot of them. I have kind of gained a lot of mentors all throughout my life. Almost all of them are in the United States. If I might go back, where are the other breakup points? I think my real break-off point was in 1972. In 1972, I still had not passed my intermediate exam. In Bangladesh, that is called HSC exam. At that point in time, I wrote, that's a different story. I wrote a letter to Professor Salam. Professor Abdul Salam was then a professor of Imperial College of Science and Technology. Then I got a response from him. What I wrote to him was, really, I did not know what I was talking about. But he responded to me. And not only that, what I learned, this is 7 years before he himself got his Nobel Prize. So let me tell you what I learned from this amazing exchange. Professor Salam knew that little learning is a dangerous thing, knew that. He never wanted to discourage me. He did not ignore me, even though I was 12th grader. The topic that I asked him of happened to be in astrophysics. So he found a bigger expert than himself. He sought the help of that other expert who was then living in Germany. So I got this letter in my home back in Sylhet then from Germany. And that letter, it was 2-page long letter. I did not understand a sentence. From sentence 1 to last, it was all mathematical equations. I didn't even have the background. It took me another 20 years before actually I understood what that letter meant. So let me tell you what I learned. Never ignore anybody. He demonstrated that. Always know somebody else knows more than you. He got that help. And he found a better expert. And I found from that experience, the best thing is to do is listen. And listening is more powerful than talking. I hope I kind of said enough about that.
Thank you, Dr. Karim. I think it was an amazing experience receiving letter in Sylhet all the way from Germany. Okay, I think we have lots of we're gonna have lots of question and answer, and you have such an experience. Let's go to your presentation. What it took be, what it takes to be the first scientist, right? So let's go to your presentations. We all are waiting for that one. Yeah.
I think I need to go one slide back. Okay. So the talk I have kind of framed something like this: the first experiment. And I meant the first experiment ever in the world. And this is how the typically stories goes. Everybody knows about Isaac Newton. Here's a story. The man was sitting under some apple tree, right? And an apple somehow fell. And it also meant that he discovered something. But let me tell you what we all seem to forget. Isaac Newton said, if I have sinned a little farther, it is because I was standing on the shoulders of giants. So we may all attribute to Isaac Newton here, but he's saying, I am standing on the shoulders of our giants. Today's talk is about those giants. So this is how the story goes in the scientific world. Anything that is good, anything, has all started in Greece. This is how the story goes. And the names that we hear, I put names and the age, are Socrates, Pythagoras, Zeno, Euclid, Archimedes, and Ptolemy. What I want to tell you while I'm showing this, even though we say all things good start in Greece, two of the name, Euclid and Ptolemy, I've highlighted. They never lived in Greece. They lived in an Egyptian city called Alexandria, okay? But when we look at it, we say these are all Greeks. So these two Greeks were actually Egyptians that we seem to ignore. So if I look at this many 6, 4 figures of Socrates, Pythagoras, Ptolemy, Euclid, and we have heard enough of them, but I want to first point out where we think everything got started. even of the base fundamental 6 of them, 2 of them are actually from Egypt that never been said. Next slide. This is how the Western world, or even people in the Eastern world, thinks. After Greece, suddenly we jump to Galileo. And from Galileo, we go to Newton, to the apple tree. So look at this. The magic is we jump from Greece to Galileo, then to Newton. But remember that. Is that true? No, there are 1,200 years in between Greece and Galileo. 1,200 years, we are completely silent. In those 1,200 years, if you looked at the European continent, there was nothing but knights fighting knights, knights fighting knights. Those 1,200 years, you can say, was the darkest years of Europe, which we do not necessarily talk about. Okay, so I go outside. During this 1,200 years, what happened? So I'm showing you a map of the world where you see on the very left is Russia, Georgia, Armenia, Turkey, Azerbaijan. And if you keep on going to the right, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, China, India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, etc. So that's when what was happening in Europe, the real light of the world was in this region that we perhaps don't realize. Let's look at this. And I would like to say today, I'm going to fill up the gap of 1,200 years. During these 1,200 years, humankind learned how to count. Humankind started doing mathematics, happened to be in China, India, and Central Asia. And then that began the experimental science. That resulted in the birth of photonics and the first experiment that I'm going to talk about soon. So let's begin with Roman numerals. All of you may know, but I'm just going to review the background a little bit. Roman numerals, the way to represent numbers, it used a mix of both addition and subtraction between position in a very clumsy fashion. And by the way, the Roman numbers had no zero in it. 10 is an X. There is no zero. Without having the zero itself, the mathematics that we know today, or the computer that we're using today, and that today's IT professionals who are talking about, at the back of it, it's just ones and zeros, the binary number. The zero still was not discovered. So let's look at this Roman numerals. And I know I don't want to spend time on this, but it kind of tells you what those Roman letters really represent in modern day, as far as numbers that we somewhat call decimal numbers, like 1 through 10, 11 through 100.
Dr. Karim, there's one thing. There is a hide button, the blue hide button. If you click on that, it will disappear, so that in your presentations we can see.
My presentation, what is it I'm seeing?
In the screen, there is a stop sharing, and beside that stop sharing, there is a hide button, right? If you click on the hide, we don't see that stop sharing and hide button over there.
Is this? Oh, okay. Just a minute. Hide button, right?
Yeah, just a hide button. Then
is that what it is?
We can see that still. Did you click on the hide button? Then we don't see that anymore.
No, there is no hide button. I don't see that.
In the presentation, it's okay. Okay, no problems. We can.
You're sure?
We can go on. This is a small like a.
Oh yeah, I can see that. Okay, fine.
Yes.
Is it going to take? Okay, let me see.
This one, yeah, that only.
Okay, it did. Okay. So okay, let me take off this. Can you get me back to the screen again?
Yeah. Now you have to. Your screen share is gone. You have to share the screen again, probably.
Okay, I have to share the screen again. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, 1 minute. On the which computer now?
The personal one. Right?
The personal one. Okay,
Yes.
so I say share. No.
The personal computer, that one, yes, gonna be there.
Do I stop the end show first?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I mean, on the personal computer, you can end show,
Okay. Yes.
Then you have to go to the browser, same studio link. Go to the studio link.
Where is that link?
The same link that you are in the studio.
Which was the stream share?
In the personal computer. Yeah, the stream share.
Okay,
yeah.
hold on a bit. It's going to take a few minutes. Yeah.
Apologies, everyone. We have a technical difficulty,
Yeah.
but we'll sort it out. In the meantime, I would like to request, because the session is going on, to all the live viewers, can you take your time to also start posting your questions? Because we are going live on both YouTube as well as on Facebook Live. Please, in the comments, post your questions so that we can try to answer them at the end of the session. Also, if anyone wants to come live in this studio, please inbox me on my Facebook account. You can find me on Bitna Live, or just let us know in whichever place you are, showing your interest of coming live, and then we'll share you the link to come live to the studio so that you can have a live Q&A with Dr. Karim.
I can't find the screen now. 1 minute.
Yep.
No, hold on a bit. Okay, got it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so just a minute. I'm getting in first. Okay, and then I do what? Enter the studio?
Yeah, enter the studio now. Share the screen. Share the screen from present.
Do I say first present?
Yes, present. Select the screen.
And then share.
Yeah.
Share screen. And then entire screen. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, are we back?
We are back, and you can turn on the presentation.
And the presentation again, right?
Yeah, just from bottom of your screen there, bottom of the screen. Where your PowerPoint is not there.
Okay, where the PowerPoint is.
Right side, yeah.
This side, yeah.
This one, yeah.
This is it?
Yeah, this is it.
Okay.
And
can I go ahead now?
Yeah, hit the present button. Yeah. Yes, you are here.
Fine.
Yeah, let's continue.
Now we are back.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I apologize for this.
No, we are.
Okay. So if you look at the Roman numbers, it will tell you the problem of the Roman numbers. Just give you an example. I know I'm going through this example just to show you what the problems are. Suppose here's this number, 72,487,963. The way you will write it in Roman numbers, because there is no zeros, let me focus this first one. Look at CD, the red piece. C comes before D. The second one, C comes before M. So what CD means is D minus C, not C plus D. And the other one is M minus C. What does that mean? Well, that will mean in one case, 500 minus 100, which happens to be 400. And the other case is 1,000 minus 100, and that's explained for 900. I hope you are all clear with this. With this, understanding, I will go back to China for an understanding that the Roman and the Greek numbers were not helpful. So what we miss throughout is the Chinese stick numerals. This is about 11th century BC, at about the same time or even before the Greeks were there. And bamboo sticks would be used in this particular case to represent numbers. These were positional based on a 10 scale, yet there was no zeros yet. For zero, they were using just a blank space. So with that, for between 10th BC to 2nd BC, you will find the Chinese mathematics, Jiuzhang Xuansu is the greatest of the Chinese classics in mathematics. Jiuzhang Xuansu solved a total of 246 problems. And these 246 problems are under 9 different chapters. What I want to tell you, what are these 9 different chapters were? This is about land surveying, counting rice, distribution by proportion, width, civil engineering, distribution of goods, profits, loss, calculation, and how to calculate triangles. So Liu Hai, who is the compiler of this 9 chapter, it used himself discovered Gauss-Jordan illumination method 1500 years before Gauss. Calculate the value of pi to be 3.141014. If I go to the next slide, I go back to India for a while. The 2 of the mathematicians of the many who stand out the most, they were not in BC, but between 476 to 550, and between 598 to 670, and these were Aryabhatta and Brahmagupta. I will review a little bit before I talk about Ibn al-Haytham. Aryabhatta estimated pi by dividing 62,832 divided by 20,000, estimated at 3.1416. He preferred to use the square root of 10 to approximate pi. You have to give credit to him, he calculated the circumference of the earth to be about 62,832 miles, pretty close to the correct. Also believed that the orbits of the planets are actually ellipses and they are not circles. He's the first person also defines zero as the result of subtracting a number from itself, like 5 horse minus 5 horse, no horse. But although he didn't realize the understanding of all of it together, he was able to solve an equation of the forms that I'm actually listing on my screen. I don't want you to know or even understand the math, but we know the second formula is a formula that we still use in the geometry books of how to calculate of an area of a very special type of quadrilateral where the side is A, B, C, and D. I will skip this for the sake of the presentation because we call this to be Brahmagupta theorem. So after that, this is the first time in the world. Prior to this, science developed individually. One person worked by himself or herself somewhere. He is the only one who understood it. There is nobody around to understand it. First time an organized research took place was not until 754,000. This organized research was conducted in the major library of Al-Mansur, Khalif Al-Mansur. Between 754 to 775, this is about 21 years. This is how it happened. He devoted, first project was just to translate all the knowledge from all the world. So he would bring up people with expertise coming from Chinese, Greek, Persian, Sanskrit, and Syriac work. Although people may say all they were doing translation, just hold on a bit until for a few minutes. The way Khalif did it, if anybody bought a book, he would give the weight of the book in gold to the person who would bring the book and translate it. This is how all the learning in the world were translated into Arabic. Now remember those 1200 years when there is nothing happening in Arabic? In the Europe, the only scientific language that was existent for 1200 years was Arabic language. That was the scientific language. The second library was called Bait al-Hikmah. It was called House of Wisdom. This was established under Al-Mamun between 786 to 833 years, almost 50 years, and shifted gears to organize research in mathematics, astronomy, and philosophy. So you may consider this to be like National Science Foundation today, or a federal lab today in, say, Virginia or California. That's what this is, where all the talents are brought in, they are fed, clothed, given money for their work, and all they are doing is cultivating research. Now, once that is done, out of this process came more research. So now I go back at that time, 4 particular persons: Al-Khwarizmi, Tabid ibn Qura, Abu Kamil, and Omar Khayyam. Of these 4, everyone knows Omar Khayyam. I need to talk about all 4 of them. Al-Khwarizmi, so I'm giving the age. These were the one, including Omar Khayyam, who we know to be a poet. Guess what? He's actually a mathematician who formalized algebra and trigonometry. And these are the 4 most significant of them. So I want to tell you, what are the type of problem they were trying to resolve? This map that I have on the top, it's the Silk Road, where all the business was conducted along the Silk Road from Europe onwards until China. Those green lines are the travel route. During this phase, I want to tell you what are the type of problems they were trying to resolve. They were doing finance, communication, calendar, trade, transportation, navigation, civil engineering, pilgrimage, distance, and a very particular thing. Most of this caravan were Islamic people. They always needed to know which way the city of Mecca was, even though they were traveling 1,000 miles away. How do we know where Mecca was? Because that's the direction of their prayers. So these, I'll give you another: taxation, division of inheritance, serving, how much property, who gets from father or mother or brother, how it has to be chartered. These are essentially mathematical equations. How do you take place? And the justification of making decision and contracts. Whatever I listed so far, all the mathematics that happened prior to this phase was individualistic. They hardly had any application. So I might be safe to say this is called applied mathematics. Mathematics used to solve problem that you need to solve in your life. Next slide I have. This is Avicenna. And I just want to tell you again, Avicenna, these are just a couple of stamps coming out in former Soviet Union. He is known worldwide for many reasons, but I want to go quickly. The Avicenna is known more for the medicine, but this is the character that I want to talk about a few minutes, is Al-Khwarizmi. Very long name, Abu Abdullah Muhammad ibn Musa al-Jawarizmi, because he was from Khwarizm. That's how his name became Al-Khwarizmi. So in the Western world, we'll know it Al-Khwarizmi, Al-Khwarizmi, Al-Khwarizmi. What I wanted to tell you, this man is behind everything that we know of as far as mathematics is concerned to the Western world and to every place until today. So let's look at this particular slide just for you to remember. Al-Khwarizmi lived between 780 to 850. He's a product of this so-called National Science Foundation. What did he do? Beside appearing on a statue in Uzbekistan or a stamp in former Soviet Union, the word algebra comes from the title of his book. What is the name of the book? The name of the book is a very long book, and I'm going to explain this. Al-Kitab, which is like book. Al-Muntasar, fi hisab. Hisab is calculation. Hishab Bangla. Calculation. Al-Zabar, restoring. Wal-Muqabala. Two things I want to talk about. Al-Zabar is what leads to the subject of algebra. What I want to tell you, the two concepts. So in English, the translation would be the condensed book on the calculation of algebra and al-muqabala. What is algebra? It is restoring. So first time, there was no equation before that. There is a left side and there is a right side. You can move right side to the left or left to the right by just changing sign. That's what is called restoring and reduction between two signs. So what does that really does for us? So first thing I want to tell you, Al-Khwarizmi, his algebra don't look much like algebra today. This is a page from that algebra. You can say, where is the equation? You don't see any equation. These people were genius in writing poetries and poems. So let me tell you, Al-Khwarizmi's book is written entirely in prose with none of the symbols that we use today. None. So let me explain to you a little bit. In the next slide, let's look at a problem, the way he solves the problem. This is like word. If from a square I subtract 4 of its roots and then take 1/3 of the remainder, finding this equal, remember this is the first time equal to 4 of the roots, then the square will be 256. To you and me, you may say, what does this mean? So let me tell you what does this mean. It means, he explained in the following fashion, since 1/3 of the remainder is equal to 4 roots, one knows that the remainder itself will equal 12 roots. Therefore, add this to the 4 roots, giving 16 roots, and this 16 is the root of the square. What does this mean? This statement in prose can be stated in modern algebra in this following fashion. 1/3 of the remainder, and the remainder is what you're seeing. And then if that is equal to 256, therefore x is equal to 16. So I'm kind of showing you, if I were to make a presentation just on his algebra, it would be hours for me, but I just wanted to give you a sense of one problem in words, how he did it, how from this the mathematics took grounds. Nothing comes easy, but this is how it happens. Al-Khwarizmi, a lot more than that. His early algebra was at the rhetorical state, like in poetry, prose. He used no symbols and no negative sign. He still did not talk about negative or zero coefficients. Soon thereafter, he used geometric proofs to solve this kind of equation. I don't want to take you there, but I want to tell you he is credited with formalizing Indian place value from Aryabhatta, who thought of zero but never even mentioned the word zero because he did not grasp the meaning. That zero in Arabic is called sifr and is a placeholder, is a positional notation which gives me the basis of the numbers. In my classroom, when I talk about decimal number, I usually say Arabic numbers because that's how it came. Let's look at Al-Khwarizmi's number. If you look a little bit at the very top, Arabic Indic numbers from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then Persian and Urdu. Then Devanagari in Hindi. And then in Tamil. And in Tamil, 0 is missing, as you can see it. But in every of the others, you see zeros are there. And this is how zeros were kind of introduced. So if I go a little bit, once it came to this National Science Foundation by 969, the numbers were written just like how I see in the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. By Al-Biruni, 1082. Look at the number again. The biggest change was the fact That 2, if you can look at, this is the 2. This is 2 that I'm showing you. This 2 was rotated by 90 degrees here, 2. And look at this 3. This 3 was rotated 90 degrees. That's how you get the 3 today. So by 14th century, this number that went through many different iterations, it came to what we call in 14th century, al-Banna al-Marakushi. And that's the number scheme that you see. This exactly how it looks today. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When if you write in English, Roman, German, Greek, anything, this is how you write today. So if I were to go back a little bit forward, I come to this particular mathematician, Thabit ibn Qura. He was a product of House of Wisdom, 9th century. He conducted both theoretical and observational work in astronomy. Tables of trigonometric functions as part of his studies of algebra. Then Abu Kamil, he had a book of algebra that had 69 unique problems. He's the first person who also could solve equations that had a power on the top of it. He also could add and subtract squares, cube root over 4. So he's the first person who was doing radical solution. And finally, he was a major advance in the use of irrational numbers. Numbers where the square root is not real. Like there are so many numbers like square root of -1. Square root of 1 could be plus or minus 1. Square root of 1 is imaginary. So he's the first person introducing the imaginary number concept. Next is our familiar Umar al-Khayyam. And I'll tell you the way he is known in the Western world. His real name is Ghiyath ad-Din Abul Fath Umar ibn Ibrahim al-Khayyami. He's a polymath. Why is polymath? Because these are expert on many subjects. In his case, it was astronomy, mathematics, philosophy, and poetry. And we only know about poetry, don't know the rest. He also authored 3 books, 1 on arithmetic, 1 in music, and 1 on algebra. All of these were written before he was age 25. He provided a complete classification of cubic equations by different principles. He also calculated for the first time how long is a year. Look at the calculation, 365.24219858. It literally comes to today. It's 365 days and a quarter day. That calculation was made by this guy. So I go back to India for a minute again. In the meantime, there is another Vaskara who worked on trigonometry for its own sake, just for fun. He's the first person who is credited. Now, this House of Wisdom began to influence now back in India. That's where Vaskara is picking it up. So he is calculating for the first time trigonometry, sine of a sum, sine of a difference. And I'll stop right there because I know I'm not trying to teach you mathematics, but that's basically, I wanted to show you what it is. One more polymath that I want to talk about. A polymath meaning an expert on many subjects. My focus for today's talk. His name is Ibn Al-Haytham. He's a polymath. Knows many things, too many things. He's the first person to prove experimentally that the light travels in a straight line. And he used the scientific method. Even the word scientific methods didn't exist before. So let me tell you, what is scientific method? Scientific method is you try, do an experiment, you report this experiment, and you keep on repeating this experiment. Every time you keep on repeating, you get the same answer. If you keep on getting the same answer from your experiment, then that becomes truth. Ibn al-Haytham is the one who first proved light travels in a straight line. He is also the first person to tell what scientific method is. He's the first person who also writes the book of optics. That's a fundamental core for the photonics, for Isaac Newton later, as we'll talk later. But so I want to tell you about Ibn al-Haytham a little bit, just a few slides. He's from 965 to 1039. This currency note is actually an Iraqi denomination. So that's what you're seeing is Iraqi 10,000 riyal. He was born in Basra, Iraq. He devoted his whole life to the study of the physical world. His life is very interesting, and I want to kind of elaborate this. He authored more than 200 works. At least 50 of them are still surviving. I need to stop right here. Before this, nobody wrote any scientific works. This was just theory, books, but never works of scientific discipline. So first person to show how to even write scientific paper. 50 of them are still existing. Today, if you wrote a paper, you submit to a journal. The journal will send to a lot of reviewers to peer review, to look at the paper, to find what is wrong or right. In his time, there was no peers because there is nobody else in the world who was like him. So 200 works, 50 are still surviving. First person to give the definition of scientific method. The person whose works, this 200 plus work, optics, astronomy, geometry, mechanics, water clocks, medicine, and on, I want you to note, and civil engineering, like construction of dams. And I'm going to tell you that construction of dams played a significant role in the life of Ibn Al-Haytham. He became so famous in the Bayt al-Hikmah in Iraq. He was so famous that Dayton Khalif in Egypt, who wanted to put a dam on the river Nile to control and to grow crops in Egypt, he thought, this is the guy. So he recruited Ibn al-Haytham away from Dayton, Iraq, Basra, to Egypt, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So now he is in Cairo. 1010 CE. Khalif al-Hakim has brought him to engineer a dam across the Nile. This project, now he went up and down the Nile River from Mediterranean to its roots in Sudan. He figured at least one thing: where the dam, if it's ever built, can be built. By studying the flow of water, the vortex, viscosity, and everything together, he figured out where the dam could be built. If they had all the engineering strengths. However, he understood one thing after a few years. It's impossible for him to build this dam because he doesn't have all the instruments that would be needed. At this point in time, he became fearful of his life. The Caliph had real hope in him. And he has concluded that it can't be built. Rightfully so. So immediately, he first pretended that he lost his mind. He started feigning in order to get out of the assignment of the Caliph. This resulted him a house arrest in Cairo for 10 years. That house in Cairo is the beginning of the Al-Azhar University, the second oldest university in the world. The oldest one is in Fez, Morocco. This one is where he's arrested. During this time, he's arrested for 10 years, house arrest. So he could move around, but stay in this house. He can't go anywhere else. He spent this 10 years in this quote unquote prison to study, experiment with helps of people that he could recruit while being in the jail. This is the time he writes Kitab al-Manzur. Kitab al-Manazir means book of optics. I'll come back to Newton later. So this map that I'm showing you, this is a map of a picture taken from a satellite of the Nile River. Where I'm showing you with my cursor, do you see this cursor? This place This is where the modern Aswan Dam was built with the help of Russians. And guess what? Ibn Al-Haytham selected this very site for building this dam. The dam was built a lot later in much modern time. That changed Egypt because now people can grow crops at least by the side of the Nile River between Sudan and Mediterranean in Alexandria. Let me go to the next slide that I want to tell you this. Al-Haytham's Book of Optics. This is a page from his book. And I'm copying it from the Journal of Medical Biography. And you may say, what is the medical biography doing here? This is published in 2014. Well, it is from his book where he has modeled how human eye is able to see things, how the light strikes, how the strikes goes to the synapses, to my brain, and only brain figures out what it is, and the signals comes back to human being to say, oh, you're seeing this or that. But I think for my purpose, he's the first person in the world to tell light goes from the object to an eye, not from eye to the object. Please remember, this is a very important distinction. Not from eye to the object, but from the object to the eye. He first established ray tracing method. He was the first to connect between light and vision. He was the first person to observe that the brain is the center of vision, not the eye. Eye is not smart. It is the brain. He is the first person to distinguish between primary source and secondary source. For example, if I look at the moon today, moon is not a primary source. The primary source is the sun. That light comes and hits moon. We get to see the moon. So moon is a secondary source. He's the first person to make this distinction, a very important distinction. He's the first person, non-trivial demonstration of the camera obscura. All the people that were using camera today, left and right, this is his. Just modern version you're looking at, and now digital camera. We'll come back there. He's the first person to observe diffraction. What is diffraction? Is that a light signal can diffract in many different directions. This is why if I speak through a coaxial cable, no more than 15 people can speak at the same time because every other person will hear every other people. But once we put fiber optics from one point to another, thousands of signals can go through and they will not intersect, no noise at all. You can't see anything. So he's the first person to tell what diffraction is. Let's look at this. The world of seeing. The first person to see believed, which is Aristotle on my right side, the reason you see something is not because of ray, is because a form comes from an object to your eyes. A form comes from object to your eye. Closed, but not at all closed for the sake of science. Next is ray, for the first concept of ray. This was built up by Ptolemy and Euclid. By the way, the mistake they made up to this point in time, they came to understand of ray, but they thought the ray goes from eyes to the tree, for me to the sea tree. Al-Haytham is the first person who showed and demonstrated. It is ray, all right, but ray does not go from your eye to the tree, but from tree to the eye. Very important thing. From the object to your eyes. Let me go to my next slide. This is most likely how his experimental setup looked like. This is an artistic rendition. So I want to just spend a little time here. This is possibly a pictorial depiction of Ibn al-Haytham. This is possibly a couple of his friends. And here is the tip of the mosque. Sunlight comes from there, from the tip of the mosque, goes to this quote unquote room. It goes through a hole, and then the top goes to the bottom, and the bottom goes to the top. So I'm sorry, just 1 minute, please. If I look back again. So this members, look at the picture, is inverted. But it happened because a straight line coming flips the object, and it's happening to every possible object. So that's the beginning of camera obscura. Now, this was not the only thing he did. He also, look, if I had multiple objects, he's the first person also to see and demonstrate. If I had, say, three light sources, the same pinhole, this blue will go to this blue, the red will stay in the middle, and the yellow light will go to the yellow spots. So this three light beam will appear, three light beam here, except it's inverted. So first, by screening one light source or another, he was able to demonstrate how light travels, first in straight line, and then image gets created by inverting. So if I go a little bit more on this slide, I want you to see this. This is the model of vision, his on the left side, from his script of how the rays appears through his eyes to the brain. He describes on the left side. On the right side, I'm showing you a development by Johann Johns a lot later, except here you can see two eyes, and still is coming to both of them, following the same principle on the left, how these two images goes to my brain, and they get integrated. Let me go to the next slide, please, just to make your sense. Al-Haytham also studied optics, investigated optical properties of mirrors made from conic sections. This is part of his instrument that I'm showing you there. So what am I trying to talk? Al-Haytham's Book of Optics, by the way, was a required reading at University of Paris in 1296 year. Remember, there is no university in Europe for about 800 years. All the universities were somewhere else, either in Egypt or Marrakesh or Fez. So this optics book is being a textbook at Paris and at Sorbonne in 1306. His name, Al-Haytham, got Latinized, became Al-Haytham. He showed how the three-dimensional world can be transformed in two-dimensional object. That's how picture comes up. He influenced Renaissance painting, and influential medieval optical researcher was Roger Bacon, whose follower is Isaac Newton. I want to show you this book, a manuscript from age 1647. Please look carefully, the cover of the book. On the left side is a man with pen and paper. On the right side is a man with a long thing that is actually a telescope. This man is Galileo, and this man is Ibn al-Haytham. So Ibn al-Haytham, who has calculated everything of what Galileo is going to see. That's how selenographia is represented. For this slide, this is all I want to point out. If for the sake of the time, I want to go forward. This is a modern, well, not a modern version. This is an 18th century version of a camera. So I have still a pinhole. I'm trying to take picture of this house. And if I'm a painter, I let this whole picture go to the hole, and I could be a painter sitting in this room, and just here, I can redraw the whole picture. So the whole picture can be drawn from there to my small screen. Same principle as camera. One more thing. By 1558, Gamma Frisius introduced what is called camera obscura. By 1568, now we introduce lens-based camera. Lens in the middle, lens-based camera by 1568. And I want to take you back to Uzbekistan for a minute. So if you are today in Afghanistan, I would like you to visit Ulugh-Beg's madrasa, observatory in the madrasa. This is back from 1420, which also means astronomical study is being made in this particular madrasa. And if I look, which is school, madrasa, right? And if I look at back on the right side, while this madrasa kind of was destroyed over time, in 2001, it was reestablished. So this is the madrasa on the right side. This is what used to be before. I want to go one more slide. I want to take you to India. This is a place in Rajasthan. It's called Jantar Mantar. Please go there. A beneficiary of that National Science Foundation. You go up there. This is what I would call an astronomical observatory, decaying, dying, but I want you to see how the astronomical ideas came here back. So what I'm trying to portray to you, knowledge is never a property of any one person. Knowledge is whole humankind contributes to it. The knowledge goes back and forth. Some have the time today, some tomorrow, some day after tomorrow. So if you ever go to India, I am inviting you to go to Rajasthan on this. I want to come back to Newton. There are a law, and I know this may be too much for many people, but Snell's law is the law of refraction, not reflection. The laws of reflection is the law that was created by Ibn Al-Haytham. It's still called Ibn Al-Haytham principle. Fermat principle of least time was constructed in 1662. Huygens, 1690. And Newton's optics comes 100 years later. I hope you understand that Newton was indeed standing on the shoulder of the giants. So I want to talk a little bit about the places that we have forgotten since the very first experiment. The first man to note is from Bangladesh, Satyendra Bose, who created what is called Bose-Einstein statistics, kind of leads to a particle called bosons. Followed by Chandrasekhar Raman, 1928, he gets his Nobel Prize. He created Raman effect in India. Next comes Ali Javan from Iran. He is the discoverer of helium neon laser. That's used in a lot of micro devices. Then comes Professor Abdus Salam, the very person I wrote letter 7 years before he got his Nobel Prize in 1979. He's the one whose theories are about particle physics, which eventually leads to Higgs bosons. That was discovered in Switzerland just a few years ago. Charles Cow was discoverer of fiber laser. He got his Nobel Prize in 2009. Next is Ahmed Joel, who invented ultra-fast laser chemistry, originally from Egypt, got his Nobel Prize in chemistry in 1999. And then there are 3 individuals from Japan who discovered blue light emitting diodes from Japan, who win their Nobel Prize in 2015. This slide that I had, just for make you to understand, all these particles that you see, the right two columns are the particles that are called bosons. And this particle on the very right is Higgs bosons. So today, when you look at the particles, if you understood it, it's all of that. And bosons are the right 2 column, and Higgs boson was the most complemented. The last discovered was Higgs boson, which is attributed to Professor Abdul Salam. So with that said, I want to go one more slide. Hopefully this is my last slide, but let me see. I want to show a small video, 1 minute or 2 minute take.
Identifying stars to refining daily time. It may have been developed by the Greeks. Meet the zenith in the hands of Islamic scientists. They wanted to make better, more accurate.
Dr. Karim, we can also share this video link with our audience, definitely. Yeah, that is also. By the way, I just wanted to let you know that we received so many questions from our audience. I believe it creates lots of interest because I personally, it creates lots of. I think we have to skip other laptop. I personally learned so many Muslim scientists. I even don't know, never heard of their name. And also, this last summer, I have this opportunity to visit museums in Greece and France, in Paris, particularly also in the Greece. But those are the scientists that will have so much a tremendous contribution, but we don't see. But we received so many questions, and there are two questions. There are like kind of a similar same questions I wanted to talk about from two different questions, but they are same. The question is that can you share some these things? Okay. The thing is that even though we have seen we're seeing so much advancement by the Muslim scientists, right? Considering why there is a deceleration in the progress of Muslims, even after considering the significant advancement, right? And another question, I think this is part of the same questions. Why are not we are seeing so much progress by Muslim scientists anymore at this kind period of time? Okay, if you can shortly discuss.
Yeah. So I gave you example of, in this case, Ahmed Juwail, and I chose only those example that were related to space and photons and light. I didn't speak about medicine and others. There are Nobel Prize winners in medicine who have actually came out of Turkey. So at the end of the day, knowledge requires free thinking, thoughts that will not be censored. Many things that I could say here freely, and there are many things, if I would say in countries like where we came from, you could be arrested in 5 minutes. That's exactly, remember, Galileo was put in jail. You understand that? Galileo was put in jail because he was telling things that was not going along with the church. It took about 400 years before church came and asked for forgiveness. So I'm just saying, throughout the world, for science to proceed, Muslims or non-Muslim, they have to be given the space of free thinking. Ask the question. So I'll give you a sense. If I were in Bangladesh and if I was a student, if I ask too many questions, more likely my professor will say, "Ekta beadab chile." Am I right? Ekta beadab chile. This goes at the heart of the thing. Instead, what I said at the very beginning, I learn more from my students. Did you understand what I said? I learn more from my student. If that does not happen, it will not happen. I don't want to name my students and embarrass them. There are students who have outshined me in my life. happen to be from Bangladesh too. Outshine me. All I'm just saying, the reason you are seeing or not seeing is simply because the power per se may not tolerate many things. So what you're seeing in a large number of Muslims, non-Muslims from those countries have left. They've gone to other places, including Europe, America, and other places where they exercise. Just think of COVID-19 vaccines. These vaccines came out of 2 Turkish scientists based in Germany. So all I'm basically saying, I don't think necessarily it is about Muslims or non-Muslim. It's simply, can you grow in a place freely? In other words, remember in this case, Khalif al-Mamun says, here's this place. Do anything you feel like. Just you create. Then they can create. And they have shown you 100, 200 years how much they could create collectively and individually. So I think I said enough, but I'm just trying to say, I'm not trying to defend anything, but it basically tells you, as long as the environment is not there for the scientists to think freely, I don't think they can think.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Karim. That's a very valuable answer we should think about going forward. There are 2 questions also, they are kind of related. One is that what can we do to make our generations aware of these scientists, right? What is our responsibility, and how can we make our kids like more interested in science? Yeah.
So you're kind of speaking to my heart, but I'll just tell you this. Look at Bangladesh.
Yeah.
The whole country students are dying to pass BCS exam. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to join government job. They don't have to study anything. They don't have to learn anything. They have to network with the right political party and right things. You can't expect anything from them until these things have changed. So I'm just saying, it is unfortunately tragedy in our country, at many other places. You can't attract. Most people are attracted only by money. But I have to tell you, knowledge and money, they don't necessarily go together. They don't. Sometimes you'll never get a reward for what you did. What you get is enjoyment out of what you created. So until people understand that my real kick is not money, it is my discovery and sharing that idea with equal people or better people, there can be no reward better than that. No reward. If you give me 1 minute, I just want to tell you this. Chandrasekhar Raman, Bill asked that he is going to have Institute of Science after he has won his Nobel Prize. He put his Nobel Prize, more or less at that point in time, he wanted 3 physicists to be hired. People from all over India applied to these places. He hired 3 people. And there were 7 such people, but 4 people was not. So these 4 people were kind of, upset a little bit. They didn't, but they met the guy that was bigger than anything in their life. One of those 4 individuals, very important story to know. One of those 4 individuals came back later, and he was waiting outside the gate. Chandrasekhar came and asked him, "Why are you here?" Then this person said, "Because of the interview that you gave me, you were supposed to give me this much rupee from those days, whatever the taka was at that point in time. You gave me a little bit more. I came to return it." And Chandrasekhar left. C.B. Raman, Chandrasekhar left. Came back again. And he said, "Listen, you may not have been great in physics, but one thing you're great is in honesty. I'm going to create another position for you." He creates this position. Do you know who this person is? He's the one person I named later who won a Nobel Prize. That one man who didn't get the job came back because of honesty, because of what he did. All the theories, he came to United States, grew out of University of Chicago. All the stellar phenomenon follows his principles. So I'm just trying to tell you, it is the environment you create. It is the kick you get, not money. Actually, this guy was returning money, but guess what? For what he created, he ended up getting a Nobel Prize. Not because of this, for all the work he did. I hope I gave you a good answer.
Amazing, Dr. Karim. This is very inspiring. Now, I have one question that is related to our professionals. You know, the BITNA is the group of in the North America, the IT professionals who has been working, and also we have so many founders, startup founders. They're building their own softwares related projects. So the question is that you are a professor right now of computer and electrical engineering, right? So you have this rare, like a kind of a expertise working both in the applied and also the theoretical field of science, like fundamental of science and also applications of it, right? There are some concerns like in a lot of technologies in the Silicon Valley, like Peter Thiel, they have been saying that what is the flying car? Means that last 20, 30 years, we have been seeing so much development in information technology, but not much in the fundamental science or hard science, applied physics, material science, those fields, compared to the so much advancement we are observing in the information technology like AI, machine learning, those things. Now, that as IT for professionals, and what kind of opportunities that you're seeing that they can utilize this knowledge of fundamental science in the software field, so that they can be in a new way that could be generate new opportunities for them in going forward.
Okay, so I will try to frame the answer in the following fashion. First, I just want to kind of tell you that, let me remind you what happened right before year 2000. 1995, we said there is going to be a Y2K soon. The whole world is going to fall apart. Isn't that true? Whole world is going to fall apart. So a hype is created. And we know year 2000 came and gone. The world did not fall apart. So I'm just trying to say this. Don't be misled by the hypes. The businesses that are being created today, they may survive another 5 years. Ask this question yourself. Could you imagine this 20 years ago? There will be a business where you don't have to stockpile anything, nothing. You'll just supply like Amazon. Or, okay, I'm going to have a rental company. I don't own a car. I'll find other people's car and other drivers to drive around, and you create a Uber. So you have this organization is a new business model. Now, Uber makes a lot of money. The guy who is driving the car does not do any much later. So what I'm trying to say, business model changes. So I would like to say this. The most fundamental things that are happening today in the lab, more likely you will not see any bang for buck in another 5, 10, 15 years. So I'll just give you an example. Remember I said at the very beginning, I'm working with 3 sophomore students. With one, I'm working on, just think of this, I'm working on switch capacitor, special type of capacitor, which can be switched. With another student, I'm working on memristor, not resistor, not capacitor, not inductor. It's a 4th type of material that will change or can change the behavior of electronics. So today, not about my work, but in general, the works are happening in deep semiconductor at a level so that you can create more circuit elements within a real estate, more and more, that will mean less power required, yet you can concentrate more device in it. So if you put your hand behind your computer or anything, you see heat coming out. One of the goal for many of these is how to stop emission of heat coming up. This is a mechanical engineering problem. This is a heat transformation problem. So I think I'm trying to answer that all these things that are happening, nothing is quiet. I can tell you this. People are working in labs, left and right. Some people work for a while and then they give up. I worked almost 30 years ago on optical computer logic. Do you think we have an optical computer yet today? No. But I was just performing addition, subtraction of two numbers, but using optics, meaning at the speed of light. Everything that you are seeing is at the speed of the electron. If you could create a device that is going to use light, guess what? It's going to be faster ever than you can think. So all these things are happening by hundreds and thousands of labs. I think a lot of things are happening, continue to happen. It has to eventually, somebody has to take the idea, patent it. There has to be a commercial driver who is going to build and develop it and then mass market it. Now, by the time you mass market it, nobody will remember which scientist did it or not. The scientist might get a 1/1,000,000th of patent royalty. That may be it. Other than that, you're not going to hear much. I hope I gave my answer.
Yeah, we got like very inspiring insights from you. That one thing that is actually I'm asking again, that is coming from like today's presentation. This is so much inspiring that since in these presentations we learn so many scientists we never heard of, but what can we do to make these generations like reading or writing more contents or videos? How can you make them aware of this kind of scientists? What kind of actions that we can take in terms of your
so first I will give you bad news and then we can tell good news. The bad news is that what I've found, and again, just as a personal observation, I don't want to offend anybody, but I've found statistically the people that you're trying to inspire, they don't read. They don't like reading. They would rather Google and find an answer. Mm-hmm. This is a group you cannot do anything about. This group is, in some sense, messed up that they couldn't inspire these people because they are not able to grasp things, because they're visual people. They might hear a talk like me and they may be more inspired than reading a book. I'm just being very blunt. Right. The humankind now, at least for last 20 years, they have given up on books. Now, most Bangladeshis, they're like reading a popular science fiction by this or that. That's it's about 20 page or 30 page. They get, wow, and wonderful. I can take 50 autographs and whatever. I can buy another 30 of them. It doesn't impact anybody's life. It does not impact anybody's thinking. So I'm just coming back to the same thing. I think, unfortunately, many of the folks that you are trying to reach, they do not read. Well, why do you blame them? Look at our professors in many of the universities. They're plagiarizing stuff. They're writing somebody, copying, publishing, pasting, getting the promotion. Do you think our kids are going to learn anything from those professors? No, they can't. So that's a system we have created. You can't reach those people because they're all broken in many sense. I'm sure I have to tell you this. There must be exception. There are obviously exceptions. But what you are seeing at the large volume, they don't want to read. Professor to student. There are exceptions. Because I still see bright students coming in. I still see bright faculty member hiding behind in the campus and doing amazing stuff even in Bangladesh.
Thank you, Dr. Karim. This is something that I think we should, going forward, we have
I just saw a question, if I can just say, somebody said to me, you are one of the founders of ICCIT? Yes. This is a question. This is a annual conference that has lasted for over 25 years. The International Conference on Computing and Information Technology. Thank you. I think it's Dr. Brother Kamrul Hassan who has asked this question. Yeah. ICCIT is the oldest conference of Bangladesh in any area. Oldest conference. It's held every year continuously. This year, we are going in this December, is the 26th year. Through this process, it's not only a conference to bring ideas in information technology from within Bangladesh and outside to affect and impact the industries that you would like to impact. And I'm telling you, there are some bright products that I see coming up from there. They are phenomenal. And I have to kind of say that it is tremendous, and tremendous for many reasons, is that ICCIT has given a platform for us to reach the students. And by the way, these works are not plagiarized. There is no plagiarism policy in most of the universities in Bangladesh. It is this conference that is driving the plagiarism policies in Bangladesh. So I feel good that there are brothers and sisters who have gotten out of this process trying to influence the policies of the universities. I would say by now, a lot of universities have such policies. Whether or not they're implementing or enforcing those policies, that's a different story. But I think that's how it's happened. One more thing I would just to tell you, I work with an organization called NABIC, North American Bangladeshi Islamic Community. We raise money in the United States, and these monies, two projects I want to mention this. One project is where we finance all the students from Bangladesh who come for ACM ICPC, Software Programming Contest worldwide. For last about, I'd say almost 20 years, we finance all the students and their coach to go to wherever the world finals are. That's one. Another one that we have not been very active for last 3-4 years, but we also finance what is called Lindau, Bangladesh. Lindau is a city in Germany. Every year, we get a small group of people for Bangladesh, the best of the people in a particular area. Let's say chemistry. Best few chemists who will apply, we'll get them, bring to Lindau, Germany. On that year in Lindau, Germany, they will get to spend those 3 years, possibly with 20 to 30 Nobel Prize winner in chemistry. Next year, we get 4 people, maybe in physics. I bring them in Lindau. They spend time with another 20 to 25 physicists. Next year, health. They come in, they see another 20 to 30 Nobel Prize winner, but in medicine. So I would say my way of helping out this process is doing this, but it requires support, sponsors, raising money. And if I might say, I started as a broker, marriage broker, but this is what you would have to do if you weren't to encourage some of those people. And they will do amazing stuff.
Yeah, we have 3 more minutes, so we're going to end soon. I'm going to ask, we have like 2 more questions, so we have one minute for each one. One question is that since you mentioned about NABIC, right? Can you talk a little bit shortly about your involvement with NABIC and its role in the society about this one?
So NABIC was started in 1991 at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign campus. Initially, when the group was formed, it was mostly economists. But over time, we have been slowly broadening the base in the United States. It's a national organization. Every year, we raise significant amount of money. At the current point in time, we raise about $1 million a year. We have about between 30 to 35 different projects in Bangladesh. Those projects happen in all the way from hospital, emergency aid, social welfare, healthcare, environment, water, science, and technology. So again, NABIC, besides doing work in the United States, we invest roughly $1 million each year in Bangladesh in support of about 25 to 30 different projects. The other thing, I think that was one. Is that the one question? And you had, what was the other thing you said?
Yeah, the last question is for all of our BITNA members, Bangladesh Information Technology Network of North America, who are here. In our members are like students, there are like new graduates or many years, also lots of professional, many years of experience of professional people, also in the IT field. They're here in the audience. If you have to give one advice to us, to them, then what it would be that you want to give us advice? Yeah.
So what advice can I give? So let me tell you what advice I give to my children.
Yeah.
3 of them, 2 daughters and 1 son. And my pitch to them is simple. I'm not looking for a PhD out of you or a degree in this field or that. What I want out of you, hopefully you'll be an honest person, a transparent person, truthful person, who will be fair and just. And rest, you will get it through. There are doors to be opened. God opens doors. You got to know when to go to the door. If you open to the door, you can get to another door, and then another door, and another door. So again, what I tell to my children, opportunities are endless. There are some basic ingredients. You have to know your stuff, work hard, extremely work hard, and wait for the door to open. You have to know when to take the risk. It means failure. It also means success. If you don't go to the door, if you don't fail a few times, you don't know if you will ever be successful. I'll be never hurt just simply because I failed, because that's one way to be successful. Again, thank you very much for giving me this forum. I had a great time. I wish I could spend more time. Just for the sake of it, if you go to Nova, you will see this particular video that I stopped at some point as to how astrolabe is actually works. This is fascinating.
We will share with everybody in our networks. And thank you, Dr. Karim. We cannot thank you enough for making some time from your busy schedule. And thank you all the BITNA members who have been with us the whole time. And by this very, very inspiring sessions, we're going to end this session right now. But thank you again, Dr. Karim. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.